Today, we're going to look at how AI is going to make Steven homeless one day and take his job. No, not really, but we are going to look at AI and how you can use it for your business.
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome back to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
I'm Steven.
And today we're going to talk about AI, a very, very exciting topic, specifically how businesses can use AI. So, Steven, I know that you use AI.
Of course.
Yeah, I use AI. A lot of businesses out there kind of afraid of AI or aren't utilizing it. What do you think is the low-hanging fruit, the easiest way for a small business to use AI in their everyday operations?
I mean, if you need to put together a very quick document, and when I say quick, I mean it'll take a human 20 minutes to put it together, why would you do that when you could have AI put the bare bones together in a minute?
Mm-hmm.
You can go through, put the finishing touches on it, or you can just write the full thing. I don't know. I would rather spend the other 19 minutes not doing that.
So some of the businesses that are out there maybe have no idea like where to even go to. They just hear about ChatGPT and that's it. They've never signed up for it. They've never done anything. Like, what do you say to those people who are like, okay, I'm giving in. I'm going to try out AI and see what happens. Where do they go first?
Well, personally, I would say find the nerdiest person you can think of and say, "What do you know about AI? Can you help me with it? I wanna get to know it."
Mm-hmm.
Or you can give M2 Technology a call.
Is there any programs that you would kind of suggest?
Oh yeah, I mean, you can do a quick crash course. You can, do a quick search of how do I use ChatGPT. You can get into that. You can start getting the idea of what you need to feed into it. But one thing that any tutorial you're going to read about is going to say is you need to be very precise. You need to be comprehensive in your letter, in your prompts, not your letter, sorry. Whatever you're giving into it, that's what you're going to get out. So you need to be very thorough. If, let's say, hypothetically, you want to send out an email, it's a resignation letter. You want to make sure you're giving it just enough information of saying, hey, I'm a seasoned professional, I've been working at this company for X amount of years, and I'm looking to put in my resignation. Can you help me put together a letter? You could feed it exactly what I just said as a prompt, and it's going to be very specific. It's going to say, I'm a seasoned professional, blurp, 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 I want to resign from this company. And it's like, it doesn't sound human.
Yeah.
And you need to have that aspect of human. You can give it your background, and you can say in the prompt, I've worked at this company for 10 years, and I'm looking to resign to go to another company. You can give it that much information. It will specify, I've been working with this company for 10 years, and I want to resign.
Mm-hmm.
So the more information you give it, the better the output's going to be. You need to be very cautious. You need to be very careful with what you're putting into it because that information is going to be available to anyone else using the AI.
Gotcha. So the prompt, though, let's talk about that for a second.
Yes.
Because some people don't even know what a prompt is. So, like, break down what a prompt is for the everyday person that's out there.
It's a good point. I should have started there instead.
No, you're okay.
Yeah. If you were to treat ChatGPT as the tool as it is, think of it like any chat program. You're sending a text to a friend.
Okay.
And you want to have your friend do some work for you. What are you going to say? Are you just going to say, hey, Brandon, I need help writing this letter. Can you help me with it? ChatGPT is going to have that response instantly. It's going to be readily available right then and there. It's not going to know your background. Meanwhile, if I ask you specifically, you're going to have a lot more information that you can put into it. You can tailor it accordingly. So if I'm going to ask you something to do something for me, I need to give you all of the information for it. Treat AI exactly like that. When we're saying prompt, you're sending a text to a friend. This friend's going to help you with all of that work. So when you're typing in everything, it's going to use whatever you give it.
Gotcha. So, I say, hey, Steven, I need you to help me move. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I need you to, great. Like, that's not enough. But if I said, hey, Steven, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and on Thursday I need to move to Ashwaubenon, and I have this many people already helping, like, it gives you a lot more context, and you're going to have a more informed way of answering that question, essentially.
That's correct. If you give me that kind of information, if you say, "Hey, I'm moving," okay, I'm gonna show up in just my car, and I'm just gonna assume, okay, he's got a moving truck and everything, but the AI isn't gonna have that context. When you give the information of, "Hey, I'm gonna be moving. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I've got one other person helping me. Where do I start?" The AI is going to be able to put together, okay, 2-bedroom apartment, roughly this much square footage. This is what's going to happen. We need to make sure we have a truck that's big enough to carry a bed, maybe multiple beds, your desk, your kitchen set, everything.
Sure.
The AI is going to have that perspective as long as it's got the information. It's going to be able to glean that information just from what you've given it, but it's going to be a lot more helpful. So it can book a truck. It'll show up with a truck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, I've kind of seen this meme before out there where it's just like crap in, crap out, essentially, when it comes to AI. So your prompt is the thing that's going to dictate, essentially, how good of content you're getting back out. So what you feed the AI is not like a creative mind that's going and, creating something from scratch. You have to give it what it needs to actually perform that task.
Exactly. If you put the wrong gas in a car, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
If you put diesel in your regular car, your car's not going to work. It'll run terribly for a little while.
Yeah.
AI is the exact same thing.
Okay, I got you. And so, what's one thing that you would probably, let's say you have great prompts, okay, and you're a small business, and you learned a little bit okay, yeah, I can prompt things. What's one thing that you would kind of utilize AI to do, and then what's one thing that you'd probably be like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to utilize AI for this, I'm just going to use the human touch?
Yeah. I would say if you want an example of something, you want to send out an email to everyone in your company saying, "Hey, we're going to be changing passwords, everyone has to do it, can you write a nice letter for this?" In your prompt, the exact text you can put in is, "Can you write an example email letter that is going to explain to my users that for security reasons we're changing passwords at the company?"
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come up with a good prompt saying, due to security reasons and, for company caution, we're going to have everyone change your passwords.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the best way to say
Yeah.
it, but that's going to be the gist of the letter. It's gonna put all this information, you're going to go 3 paragraphs, and then you can load that into your email program. You can bold text. You can put in big red letters, "Read this."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to say, this is what we're doing. And that much work is now taken off of your plate. You can just send out the email at that point.
So emails would be, an email like this would be something that you trust it with,
Yes.
as long as you review it after.
Yes.
Okay.
Something that you would want to have a personal touch on. Let's say you have an employee who's performing a little less. You're going to want to put that together. You're going to want to write that yourself, saying, "Hey, due to performance, all of these, whatever reasons, you're not going to be at the company." You need to have that there.
Sure.
The computer is going to be very cold and unthinking. If you put a prompt in there like that, it's just going to say, "Okay, yeah, you're going to be terminated for these reasons exactly," and it's not going to have.
Can't I prompt it to be nice?
I mean, as nice as you think you can train it. I personally, if I were to get an AI letter like that, I would be like, "Ugh, I'm happy I'm not there."
Yeah. Well, I think you can. So I think that comes down to people that don't know how to use. I agree with you, right? Okay, we're doing a coaching letter, we're putting someone on a PIP. Let's not use AI to generate that.
Yeah.
Maybe use AI to write a template of what it should look like, or different pieces of it, but use your time to do that on your own.
Yep.
With that being said, though, I think that's a constant struggle is how do I make the AI not sound like AI? And some of the people that are really good at prompting can get it to the point that it doesn't sound like AI. Just the other day, I saw a post on LinkedIn, and in the AI project that I use for M2 Technology, the prompt was you can have different instructions, so you don't have to write it every single time, right? So it lives on the side of your project document, where it's one official prompt that it always follows when it comes to rules, and then you give it the primary prompt later. So but it was, don't use this, don't use this, don't say this, don't say this. I mean, the list was
Yep.
like this long
Yep.
because they found out the AI just keeps on using these terms over and over and over.
Yep.
And when people look at it, or when you run it through an AI, like, is this written by AI tool? These are all the things that are flagging.
Yep.
So now you're telling the AI to stop using those words and start thinking of other things to say.
Yes. When it's putting all this information together, you have to think of it in the sense that it has the thesaurus at the ready. It's going to use the most descriptive word that fits. That word might be the most complicated out there, like who says this in a regular conversation kind of word. And it's just, you got to keep an eye out for that. That's a part of the system prompts you were referring to, that you need to pre-train your AI. This information you're giving it, when we're talking about giving it a system prompt, that's the first message you're going to send. It's going to set the guidelines of how it's going to operate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what's the benefit of training, like on a certain project or a certain, the way that I look at it is this, right? Like, I use Claude through Anthropic, right? And for me, I think of training, still using that same large language model, but I'm like training different employees for the job, essentially. I have one for marketing, and it's just for M2 Technology. I have one for M2 Logistics, our sister company, and then I have another one that's like personal. And what I think of is like, I need to consistently invest time into each one of these models so it gets better and better and better. It's never a one-time thing. It's, ooh, we've identified this. Now it's like I need to go train my employee over here, that I have to learn more about who we are, what we do, and speak in the same way that I would or someone else would.
Yeah, that's a part of the training it. As you're giving it this information, it's learning how to communicate in that style. So if you just blanket ask it a short form question without any preset data, it's just going to give you the most canned robotic response. The prompts that you have, those have been custom tailored to fit in at a company. So if you use one for M2 Technology, it already has the information to go off of. Its output is going to match something that you would feed in accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different tools that you can kickstart your AI journey with. If you have a vision statement for your company or a mission statement, or you have market research done. I know, Creative Edge, our marketing partner, did market research for us, gave us this great document that showed us, our total addressable market, who we are, who our ideal customer profile is. Like, what a gold mine to feed into the AI and be like, here's M2 Technology. And then it's like, here's what we stand for. Here's who we're trying to reach. It has so much information that our prompts, although important, it already has so much context. It's like you had somebody that's been working at the company for the last 10 years, and you just dropped them in, and you're like, now I'd like you to write copy for me.
Yep.
So much easier.
Yeah, so much easier, so much faster. That's a part of the factor of it. You have to treat it almost as if it's a living, breathing employee. As you're giving it this information, it's going to continue training off of that information. So every so often, you might need to make a new thread and give it its new training information that you've updated accordingly. You've added in new information, new context that it can go off of.
Is there other, so I love this conversation because there's so much, I think, that you can use to create. I did some social media management, and the hardest thing to do is write copy for stuff, right? And just by taking posts that are well received, that have the same tone that you want to replicate, you can feed it 100 of those posts and say, I would like you to have a similar tone and similar structure, different things like this. And then during the posting process, you're like, now I'm writing a post about malware, and I would like you to write this and focus on this point and end with a strong call to action. And it'll write it for you. Of course, it'll put emojis in there, and then after, you got to write in right after. Don't use emojis because it's like the giveaway for everything AI.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go in and you tweak it, and you're like, wow, that would have taken me a lot of head scratching and 20 minutes to write, and now I have it in 5, and now I just get to edit it, and then I get to post it.
Yeah. It's just the key thing you always have to keep in mind is the editing process. If you're just blanket copying and pasting things out, sometimes it will put in its own information. When you're feeding it pre-existing posts, it's going to go off of all of those. So if one of your posts says something like, oh, we had a great summer at a baseball game, this year didn't go to a baseball game, went skating or something instead, it's not going to have that context. It's not going to know. It's just going to replicate that accordingly. And
Sure.
the last thing you want to do is make a post where it's clearly hallucinated data that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to be prone to do if you just blindly feed it some data.
Yeah.
But that's where the editing process, that human touch, is invaluable.
It's a good point. So we're talking a lot about ChatGPT, writing copy, writing documents. What are some other tools that AI has kind of transformed?
I mean, in the art sphere, I mean, you've got generative art that it's blown up in a way. You've got tools like Stable Diffusion that have permitted anyone with a computer with a video card to, create highly detailed art. Now,
What is that?
Stable Diffusion.
Okay.
So it's a model that can, one of the repos that I'm thinking of, there's one called Comfy UI, and it's exactly how it sounds, but it's called Comfy UI because it's supposed to be the most comfortable interface for art production.
Okay.
So you can feed it text and it will generate a piece of art out of it. This has been, grown upon massively. 5 years ago, you'd get horrible abominations of art.
Whatever's great. You still get some horrible abominations.
Oh, you absolutely do.
Look at the fingers. No, it's
It's gotten way better at fingers.
Yeah. But some of that's just straight nightmare fuel.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, portions of it can be incredibly useful. Someone might look at it and say, that's a good start. I could make some changes. And another artist, they can just walk in and say, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to add this, and they've got a full-fledged piece of art. The thing is, they've now taken out 90% of the grunt work. They're fixing fingers, they're removing people, they're creating a landscape that now they can just create their art form directly on top of it. And art's just one example. By doing pictures, by doing rapid enough pictures, you can make video. So text to video, that's something that has been clearly exploding. That's everywhere these days. You can barely go on social media these days without seeing a random post. There's one that always comes to mind of I just tripped myself up.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. All right. Anyway, sorry.
No,
I'll just
Quinn,
do the clap.
you gotta edit this part.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right.
Okay. There's one example that I always like going to when it comes to generative text to video, and it's an example of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And if you look at one of the examples that was created in, we'll say 2021, it was horrifying. It was complete nightmare. It shows someone sitting at a table, Will Smith in this example, with a fork, and then he goes to eat the spaghetti, and the spaghetti morphs into his face, and it's complete nightmare. That's now gotten to the point where it can render a video of someone eating a bowl of spaghetti, and it's not the fork is going inside of their eye and the spaghetti's becoming their face.
Yeah.
And that's just
Only in a couple of years.
Yeah. The amount of growth that's come out of it's astronomical. You see generative text to music that's happening left and right. I believe Suno is really far in that field, where they are. Well, you put in, I want a country track about making a bowl of spaghetti, and it will have a full, in the style of a country singer singing about making a bowl of spaghetti. That's very common these days.
It's funny because there's so many business applications, but everything gets tested out in these weird environments before it gets migrated into business. It feels like it's we're gonna do these weird things first, get all the wrinkles out, and then we're gonna move it over to something else. So.
Yeah. Well, someone can take a look at a horrifying video of someone eating AI spaghetti, and they can now say, hey, this just made a full video of someone in a kitchen, I could VFX this and I could make it an advertisement for something.
Yeah. 2 years ago, it was 2 to 3 years ago, it was in National Retail Federation in New York, and that was a whole thing about AI advertising and how, those really neat looking videos that are, moving all around, or a product showcase. None of the products, they showed all these product showcase, shoes and clothes and stuff like that. None of them were real. It was just, they took and gave a description of the model, or they pulled them offline, and the videos were just created instantly. It's like, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? There's those business cases for it. So one of the things that I really liked the other day, we were shooting video for logistics and just some simple stuff, right? We were talking about benchmarking, and I always get these advertisements for Opus clips or whatever, and the AI goes and it looks and says, okay, what's going to be viral content and all that other stuff like that, and it went ahead, and the 5-minute video that I had was legitimately edited down into 8-minute, maybe like 7-minute video, into 8 different clips, rated by virality, and then the captions were 100% correct except M2. It was M with 2 I's, like the Roman numeral 2, right? Yeah. But then from there, it captioned everything else correct. It zoomed in on the person. It actually split between 2 people. It did split screen with them, and the AI did all of this. And I've used different programs in the past that I've had to do this manually and spent hours on it. And I'm like, this just took me 5 minutes running through. I mean, much simpler and easy to do. Is it as good as if a human? It's better than if I would do it. Would it be better than if a real pro did it? Probably not. But for our business case, perfect. You know what I mean? So much easier.
Yeah. For any quick productions, it's going to be super valuable. It's not necessarily something that you're going to want to have that's customer facing, just because, it's going to look like AI.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's opened up a page on Amazon for a random product, and it's very badly photoshopped in. You're going to run into that with AI, where people are going to do that.
Yeah, definitely see that all the time. You have those dime a dozen products that are there. So, and then it turns you off to it too. You're like, I know that mom is not pushing that stroller because that is not, like, her hands are, mangled over something else, and they put 20 different strollers in her hand in the past. You're like, yeah. So,
I think one of my favorites is always sunglasses, and the lighting's always off, and it's like, okay, I can see a ring light on here, and it's just it's very badly photoshopped.
Yeah. I'm gonna get people searching on Amazon for this stuff, but it's kind of fun. So,
well, that's fair.
Yeah. So, is there privacy concerns we should have when using AI for this stuff? I mean, even feeding that video, into an AI software program, or, we're using it for business documents and different things. Should we be concerned about that?
It really depends on one's own perspective on their data. I hear that, and I'm just like, ugh, that's company data that's getting fed in by this company that I know nothing about. And that puts me at unease. I myself, as I've said countless times, I like to do it myself. If I can have it live on my computer, on my server, that's where I feel most comfortable. Most of the utilities to do what we're talking about on your own hardware, it exists, but it's not that great. You can make some general things and it'll work, but you really need to have that human touch. Someone who's a master editor, they can definitely take some home generated AI video and they can spin gold out of it. I myself, that's a different story.
Yeah. So I think, overall, we just need to be careful about what we're putting in and use the tools in a way that, it helps us as a business, rather than, waiting to use it and have it, do all of our stuff. That's not what AI is for. It's not going to do everything, and we don't want it to do everything either. But we definitely want to utilize it. And some people, they have this opinion. It's like cheating. It's like, well, okay, let me be real honest with you. We've trained the AI model to write better than I have at M2 Technology and M2 Logistics. So I will write something, and then I will say, make this better, and it genuinely makes it better. That's not cheating. It's putting in the work beforehand.
Yeah.
And now we're taking advantage of it in that way.
Yep. You're already doing the heavy lifting. You're just making the load a little bit lighter.
Absolutely.
And that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry, artists. AI is not coming for your job, especially. I know we were talking about generative art, and it's like you still need to have that human touch there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you're going to get, I always think of that, like, will generative art sell? You know what I mean? Like, what's the value there? Will you be able to tell it's generative art? Are we going to have to say it's generative art? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to say it as an artist, or can you...
In my eyes, I think ethically you should.
Yeah.
You really should say, hey, this is entirely generative art. Now, if you are an existing artist, you have a following, and you're using generative art to make the base, you can say, okay, this is mine, I made it, but I started with this as a base. You could do that, but that's kind of that gray area, but I kind of live in the gray area.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure there'll be more developments. I'm sure if we have this conversation in 2 years, it'll probably look completely different. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe the next time that we have one of these podcasts, it'll be entirely generative. That's a joke. That's a joke. It very well could be a possibility in the future with how things are evolving. But this is about the human conversation.
There is, as we continue to try to end this, but just come up with more things here. There is, I had a program that you would type in the entire text, and they take a photo of your entire body from multiple sides, and then it would create your avatar. And it was for sales outreach. I did not use it because it's cheesy as can be, right? But it'd be like, hey, Don, Brandon and M2 Technology. And then it'd go through the whole script, and it was just in that weird uncanny valley where you're like, okay, I can tell something's a little off. That's not really me, but it looks pretty darn close. But it felt very ungenuine, and I'm like, maybe in a couple of years it won't look like that. But we're on the brink. It's very, very close. Oh yeah,
we're very much at the point around 2020. I remember working on a utility that would do face mapping to actually do that. So I'm sure you've seen videos of people that are singing along to songs. I mean, I remember working on something like that a long time ago, and it's gotten way better to the point where there are tools on the market that people can just freely get and use to make all of this. It's scary how fast some things evolve.
Yeah. I think the best things are the subtle ones that you can't even tell usually. Like, I think Logitech might have one where you can read off your screen, and it will, I don't know if it's Logitech or not, I think it is, but it'll actually change your eyes so it looks like you're looking directly at the screen instead of to the right. Is it Logitech?
No, I believe that one's NVIDIA.
Oh, is it? Okay, NVIDIA has it? Yeah. And it's so crazy because you can't really tell, and you're like, ooh, that's what scares me more, is when you can't, there's no indication, at least when I was looking at that it was AI.
Yeah. So the second that you start questioning, is this a real person? That's when I get uneasy.
Yeah. And it's just controlling one thing, right? It's not, hey, I need to deep fake this entire person's face or any of the other stuff. It's just like one thing. So,
That one's a great example, just because it's I remember seeing that same one, and it was deadpan, constant eye contact, no matter how they move their head. And I thought that was the strangest thing. Like, I get it. Some people are uncomfortable making eye contact, but when you're having a computer make constant eye contact, that's a whole nother level of unsettling.
You can do it, just don't move your head, or you're going to look like a real creep.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this was a fun conversation. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about AI. Listeners, if you have questions, concerns, thoughts about AI, write it down in the comments. Let's have a conversation. This is something that's forever going to be evolving, and it is going to be our future, no matter if we like it or not. And we're here to help you leverage that when it comes to your business so you can get that edge. So thanks so much for listening.